Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. The time is now 7:07 a.m. Central Standard Time in Fort Worth, Texas. It is Thursday morning. It is week 25 of reading the Bible in a year, every day in a year. My name is Kenya. Welcome to the Bible reading party. Today is day number 9 of me being banned from reading the Bible on my YouTube channel, known as Boulevard 40. That's BLVD 40. BLVD 40. That is the channel that I started on that is the channel that I started on June 1st for the sole purpose of reading my Bible. And a little bit after a week, it got banned. No reason, no rhyme, no reason. So here I am with you, my Facebook friends, and to all my YouTube family. Catch you on the replay. So yes, this is the Bible that I will be reading. This is the New Believers Bible Compact Version. First Steps for Christians. It is a modern translation of the Bible. Same story, same message, but it has a modern read to it. That's what it looks like, in case you're wondering if you'd like to get your own. From time to time, I do use my Compact Bible Dictionary. Yes, very handy, very handy. We got people, places, things, culture, cultural significance, and historical things going on. So that's that. And since it is week 25, we are in the book of Second Kings, So let me do a screen share. I wonder what happened to my screen share. I used to be able to go pop pop, or was it pop pop? Is that the one? I don't know. My screen share stuff is all gone. Where is my? Oops, that's not a mouse. This is a mouse. For all my Crocodile Dundee fans. Let's see. I used to have hotkeys. I think all my hotkeys disappeared. Wait. Okay. Okay. Screen share. Yeah, that's what I thought. Control Z. Oh, I wasn't hitting that at all. No wonder it wasn't working. All right, let's try this again. Let me put up my thing that I want to share and let me try that again, because it wasn't working. Control Z. I guess I was just out of practice. So, anyways, this is where we're at. This is week 25 of reading the Bible. As you can see in the golden rectangle, there are the words read and checkpoints. On the left side, if you see read, that is what I'm reading this week. That is the schedule. So, Second Kings 1 through 3 was Monday, 4 through 7 was Tuesday, 8 through 7 was Wednesday, and today is Thursday, so I'm going to be reading 11 through 14. If you look to the right of the golden rectangle, you will see checkpoints, which are special little things that pop up from time to time, and they're pretty significant usually. So pay attention to them, keep your ears perked up. We have already covered a chariot of fire, 7 dips in the Jordan, a floating axe head, and a feast for wild dogs. The last thing that we need to find is a lost and found book. So between today and Sunday, that last checkpoint is going to be hit. And this is what the cover of this book looks like, in case you're wondering. It is A Woman's Guide to Reading the Bible in a Year by Diane Stortz. It's a life-changing journey into the heart of God, and this is what I've been using since January 1st to help me pace myself and read the Bible little by little, step by step, until now, week 25. So it started off with day 1, and then week 1, and then here we are. 25 weeks later, that's how you do it. All right. So bringing it back. So yes, this is the Bible that I use. This is I hit my funny bone. This is the dictionary that I use. That is the study guide that I use. And you can find all of these Bible readings, well, most. You can find my Bible readings on my newly minted Bible channel, which is Boulevard 40, which started June 1st. And you can find all of my Bible readings up until the book of Ruth or up until the book of Judges. I was actually reading it on my business channel, which is this channel here, Business and Entrepreneurship. That's 40 Entrepreneur Drive. That's the actual name of my YouTube channel. And I made the executive decision to separate my business content from my biblical content and to put it on its own separate channel. So from January 1st on up to June, you can find me reading the Bible at this channel. And then from June 1st till about the 9th of this month, you can find me reading the Bible at Boulevard 40. And you can find me right now, right here, reading the Bible live to you now. But all the uploads, because I'm recording this, all of the uploads will be going to that newly designated place. So check it out. Subscribe if you like to listen to people read to you. If you like to listen to the Bible, if you like to study the Bible, head over to Boulevard 40. That's BLVD 40. Subscribe, bring a friend, and listen to some of the Bible readings. And if you have some insight or understanding that I did not bring out, make sure you let me know. So today is 11, 12, 13, and 14 in the book of 2 Kings. So here we go. I do like to start off with a recap, so that's what I'm going to do now. If I'm still in the same book, I like to read whatever I read the day before, like not the whole thing, but a recap of it, a summary of it. Then I ease on into today's. Now, if I am in between two different books, like for example, this is 2 Kings, and I think I'll probably be going to Galatians, Ephesians. Where all did those apostles go? I think by this time next week, I will be in the book of Ephesians. Nope, I read Ephesians already. By this time next week, I'll be in the book of Philippians, probably. So when I go to Philippians, I'm not going to do a recap of Kings because it's a whole new world. It's a whole new book. So that's how that goes. But yes, yesterday I did 8, 9, and 10. And so let me tell you what happened in 8, 9, and 10. Chapter 8, the woman from Shunem returns home. So there was this lady. She was married. She had a husband. She didn't have any children, but she was kind of well off, well to do. And she had this home. And whenever the prophet Elisha was passing through, she would invite him to eat with her family. And she had this feeling that he was a holy man, that he was a man of God. And so she told her husband, hey, let's build him and, let's add an addition to the house upstairs so he can have a place to stay. He stayed there. He performed a miracle, or not really performed a miracle at this point, but he prophesied that she would become pregnant. She did. She had a child. The child grew up. The child got sick. The child died. She went to Elisha, and at this point, Elisha performed a miracle, brought the child back to life, and there was a famine that occurred. And Elisha told this family that had been taking care of him for all this time, you need to leave and go live somewhere else because there's going to be a famine here for a really long time, and it's not going to be good. So this is what happens in chapter 8. Chapter 8, the woman from Shunem, this woman that I was just talking about, returns home, and she's hopefully wanting to reclaim her land, her home. Well, just as she's walking into the kingdom, to ask for an audience with the king, good old, what was his name, Gehazi? Good old Gehazi, greedy Gehazi was in there telling the king and recounting about some of the miracles that Elisha had performed. And lo and behold, here comes somebody that he was just talking about. Yeah. And at one point, Elisha brought this boy back to life. Hey, that's the mother right there. And so the king helps, this is King Which king is this? I don't remember which king it was. Uh-oh. It was the king of the Philistines, but I don't remember the name. So in either case, the king of the Philistines is surprised and kind of wowed at this fact, and he helps her get her land back. No, wait, she ran away to the land of the Philistines. That's right. Forgive me. She went to live with the Philistines, but then she came back, and it's not telling me which king it was. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to you. If you know which king this was that she returned to, let me know in the comment section, and yeah, and we'll figure that out together. Laverne Dorsey says, "Morning, and hope you had a good night. I survived." Yes, I survived. My body is still not used to working midnights, but I survived. So I jumped right on, and I'm going to jump right off, and I'm going to go right to bed. Yeah, I'm just doing a recap right now of what happened yesterday. The woman from Shunem returns home. Let's see. She gets everything back from her household and her crops. Hazael murders Ben-Hadad. Hazael murders Ben-Hadad. Now, Ben-Hadad had fallen ill, and I don't know what relationship Hazael was to him, like an assistant or a guard or a captain, but Hazael goes to Elisha and asks, "Hey, will my master survive? Will he recover from this?" And Elisha says, "Well, he will recover, but he's going to die." And that seems kind of strange and confusing, but Elisha goes on after staring into Hazael's eyes, deeply and deeply staring into his eyes, and to the point where Hazael felt uncomfortable. He says, yeah, you're going to do a lot of bad stuff." And Hazael's like, "Who, me? What, me?" It's like, "Yeah, you're going to be the next king, and you're going to cause some issues." So Hazael went back and told the king, "Yes, the prophet said that you will survive, you will recover." And then he took a blanket and smothered the king to death and took over the throne. So yeah, that's how that went in chapter 8. In chapter 8, there was also Jehoram, who was ruling in Judah. Ahaziah rules in Judah. In chapter 9, Jehu was anointed king of Israel. Jehu kills Joram and Ahaziah in chapter 9. And in then there's the death of Jezebel. So after the death of her son, she gets herself all prettied up. She looks down at the window, batting her eyelashes. Oh boy, he's flirting and this and that. I don't know what she was thinking she was trying to do. But good old Jehu looked up at her in the window and saw the eunuchs that were there with her, her assistants, her personal assistants. And he said, "Hey, whose side are you on? Mine or yours? Or mine or hers?" And he says, "Throw her down." And they threw her down. And Jezebel went splat. Yes. Nothing was left after the dogs came to rip her apart other than her hands and her feet and her head. So that was pretty gruesome. Yeah. In chapter 10, we had Jehu kills Ahab's family. So after the assassination or murder or whatever you want to call it, after the death of Jezebel, Jehu goes to eliminate all of Ahab's family. All. Cleaning house. Evangelist Obealor Ukechi, I think it's Ukechi Chinazu. Good morning, and help me out. If I mispronounce your name wrong, please correct me if you can type it out. He says he is joining, or they are joining from Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Hey, I didn't know you were coming from there, but thank you for joining me on today's Bible reading. I am reading 2 Kings. And actually, I'm not reading yet. I'm doing a recap from yesterday. This is what I read yesterday. Yesterday, we read 8, 9, and 10. Today, we're going to read 11, 12, 13, and 14. And so I'm just doing a summary of everything that happened yesterday. It's some really gruesome stuff. I mean, it's really gruesome stuff. So Jezebel has just been killed. Jehu is killing Ahab's family, like cleaning house. Jehu kills the priest of Baal, and I do believe he not only killed the priest of Baal, but he gathered all those worshipers, all those pagan worshipers, and he says, hey, we want to make sure everybody is coming to worship Baal. Let's make this great offering to him. And once he made sure that he had all those Baal worshipers in there, he told all those guards, get rid of them. We're gonna clean house. We're gonna get rid of all this idol worship. And that's what was happening in chapter 10. Jehu kills the priest of Baal and the death of Jehu after all of that. And of course, you can learn more about that in the book of the history of the kings of Israel, which I do not have on hand right now. But nevertheless, Queen Athaliah rules in Judah. Queen Athaliah rules in Judah. And for anybody who does not know, I know at least one of you knows, but for anybody else, these Bible readings are at YouTube. The Bible readings are at YouTube. You can go over there. You can watch all the replays. You can subscribe. And when I finally get my live streaming capabilities back, I'll be doing this live streaming back at YouTube. But I got kicked off for some reason. I won't go into it because I don't really know. But yeah, you can check me out at YouTube. Matter of fact, you can look up this right here. See that hashtag? Hashtag Boulevard 40. If you type that into YouTube, you'll go to my YouTube channel where I can put videos there, but I can't live stream. Oh well, their loss, not mine, right? Now I get to meet new Facebook friends. This is chapter 11, starting right now. 2 Kings, chapter 11. Queen Athaliah rules in Judah. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, learned that her son was dead, she began to destroy the rest of the royal family. Good grief, more bloodshed. She began to destroy the rest of the royal family, but Ahaziah's sister, Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, took Ahaziah's infant son, Joash, and stole him away from among the rest of the king's children, who were about to be killed. She put Joash and his nurse in a bedroom to hide him from Athaliah, so the child was not murdered. Joash remained hidden in the temple of the Lord for 6 years while Athaliah ruled over the land. Why? Verse 4, there's a revolt. Yeah, these people are pushing back at this point. There's a revolt against Athaliah, and it starts in verse 4. In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada, the priest, summoned the commanders, the Karaite mercenaries, and the palace guards to come to the temple of the Lord. He made a solemn pact with them and made them swear an oath of loyalty there in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. Jehoiada told them, "This is what you must do. A third of you who are on duty on the Sabbath are to guard the royal palace itself. Another third of you are to stand guard at the sewer gate, and the final third must stand guard behind the palace guard. These 3 groups will all guard the palace. The other 2 units who are off duty on the Sabbath must stand guard for the king at the Lord's temple. Form a bodyguard around the king and keep your weapons in hand. Kill anyone who tries to break through. Stay with the king wherever he goes." So the commanders did everything as Jehoiada the priest ordered. The commanders took charge of the men reporting for duty that Sabbath, as well as those who were going off duty. They brought them all to Jehoiada the priest, and he supplied them with the spears and small shields that had once belonged to King David and were stored in the temple of the Lord. The palace guards stationed themselves around the king with their weapons ready. They formed a line from the south side of the temple around the north side and around the altar. Then Jehoiada brought out Joash. I think that's the little baby that was saved, right? He brought out Joash, the king's son, placed a crown on his head, and presented him with a copy of God's laws. They anointed him and proclaimed him king, and everyone clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king!" Now it is time for the death of Athaliah. In verse 13. When Athaliah heard all the noise made by the palace guards and the people, she hurried to the Lord's temple to see what was happening. When she arrived, she saw the newly crowned king standing in his place of authority by the pillar, as was the custom at times of coronation. The commanders and trumpeters were surrounding him, and people from all over the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. When Athaliah saw all this, she tore her clothes in despair and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest ordered the commander who were in charge of the troops, "Take her to the soldiers in front of the temple and kill anyone who tries to rescue her." For the priest had said she must not be killed in the temple of the Lord. So they seized her and led her out to the gate where horses enter the palace grounds, and she was killed there. In verse 17, Jehoiada's religious reforms. This sounds interesting. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people that they would be the Lord's people. He also made a covenant between the king and the people. And all the people of the land went over to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They tore it down. They demolished the altars and smashed the idols to pieces. They killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada the priest stationed guards at the temple of the Lord. Then the commanders, the Kerite mercenaries, the palace guards, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. They went through the gate of the guard and into the palace, and the king took his seat on the royal throne. Isn't he still like, what, 6 or 7 years old? I mean, it's a little kid, right? They hid him away as a baby for 6 years. Let's say maybe he was 2. Maybe he was 2 or 3 years old. But still, that's like, what, 9 years old? Maybe even 10? He's still a boy. Let's see. Oh, every time I try to guess something, it tells me right there the next verse. This is the next verse. Verse 21. Joash was 7 years old. Look, Cat, you're making way too much noise. Pardon me. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. I'm sitting here guessing like he was a baby. He couldn't have been no more than 10. If that. But yeah, he was 7 years old when he became king. And now, chapter 12. Joash repairs the temple. Joash began to rule over Judah in the 7th year of King Jehu's reign in Israel. So we got baby boy in the south, and we got Jehu up in the north. He reigned in Jerusalem for 40 years. Y'all know I like that number 40, right? His mother was Zibiah from Beersheba. All his life, Joash did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight because Jehoiada, the priest, instructed him. Yet, even so, he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. One day, King Joash said to the priests, "Collect all the money brought as a sacred offering to the Lord's temple, whether it is a regular assessment, a payment of vows, or a voluntary gift. Let the priests take some of that money to pay for whatever repairs are needed at the temple." But by the 23rd year of Joash's reign, the priests still had not repaired the temple. So what were they doing with that money? So King Joash called for Jehoiada and the other priests and asked them, "Why haven't you repaired the temple? Don't use any more money for your own needs. From now on, it must all be spent on temple repairs." So the priests agreed not to accept any more money from the people, and they also agreed to let others take responsibility for repairing the temple. Verse 9, then Jehoiada the priest bored a hole in the lid of a large chest and set it on the right-hand side of the altar at the entrance of the temple of the Lord. The priest guarding the entrance put all the people's contributions into the chest. Whenever the chest became full, the court secretary and the high priest counted the money that had been brought to the Lord's temple and put it into bags. Then they gave the money to the construction supervisors, who used it to pay the people working on the Lord's temple, the carpenters, the builders, the masons, and the stone cutters. They also used the money to buy the timber and the finished stone needed for repairing the Lord's temple, and they paid any other expenses related to the temple's restoration. I'm really curious. These are Levite priests, right? Are they not honest enough that they cannot just take the money and make the repairs to the temple? They only had one job and they didn't do it. Their only job was to maintain the temple, help the people with the offerings, and help the people worship and perform the offerings to cleanse the people and purify the people and maintain the temple. That's all their job was. They couldn't do that. Interesting. So let's see. This is down in verse 13. The money brought to the temple was not used for making silver bowls, lamp snuffers, basins, trumpets, or other articles of gold or silver for the temple of the Lord. It was paid to the workmen who used it for the temple repairs. No accounting of this money was required from the construction supervisors because they were honest and trustworthy men. However, the money that was contributed for guilt offerings and sin offerings was not brought into the Lord's temple. It was given to the priests for their own use. And in verse 17, it's talking about the end of Joash's reign. About this time, King Hazael of Aram went to war against Gath and captured it. I think we just read about Gath, a couple of Gath. Something happened in either 2 Samuel or 1 Kings. I can't think of it right now. If I can remember, I will bring it up in the dictionary so I can refresh my memory. Unless you guys remember, then you can tell me in the comments. Let's see. Then let me back up. About this time, King Hazael of Aram went to war against Gath and captured it. Then he turned to attack Jerusalem. King Joash collected all the sacred objects that Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, and Ahaziah, the previous kings of Judah, had dedicated along with what he himself had dedicated. He sent them all to Hazael, along with all the gold in the treasuries of the Lord's temple and the royal palace. So Hazael called off his attack on Jerusalem. The rest of the events in Joash's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah, which I do not have a copy of, but you can look that up on your own. Verse 20 says, Joash's officers plotted against him and assassinated him at Beth Millo on the road to Silla. The assassins were Josachar, son of Shimeath, and Jehozabad, son of Shomer, both trusted advisors. Joash was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son, Amaziah, became the next king. He survived being assassinated as a little baby, but he was still assassinated, probably still as a young man, by his own trusted advisors. So that is chapter 12. And unless there's any questions? Very good. Then I shall jump into chapter 13, where we're reading about Jehoahaz rules in Israel. But first, I'm going to take a quick break. Because I'm curious about Gath. And I know that it's probably in my handy dandy dictionary. Let's see. Sometimes it's good to break things up so that you can get a better understanding of who was where and where did they come from and where did they go to. Here we go, Gath. So let's see. I just read in chapter 12, verse 17, the end of Joash's reign. About this time, King Hazael of Aram went to war against Gath and captured it. And according to my Nelson's Compact Series, it says Gath. The meaning of that word is wine press. Wine press. That's the meaning of the word. One of the 5 chief cities of the Philistines. Okay. Gath was known as the residence of Anakim, men of great stature. That's right. Because a couple books ago, the Israelites had to go there to fight these giants where they were feeling like grasshoppers. Goliath and other giants belonged to this race and the city of Gath. David captured Gath during his reign. The residents of Gath, known as Gittites, were still subject to Israel during Solomon's reign, although they still had their own king. Solomon's son, Rehoboam, later fortified Gath, but the city returned to the hands of the Philistines. Later, it was recaptured by Hazael, that's who I was just talking about, and Uzziah broke down its walls. So that's a little bit of insight into what was going on there. And now, chapter 13. Jehoaz rules in Israel. So now we're back up in the north. Jehoaz, son of Jehu, began to rule over Israel in the 23rd year of King Joash's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 17 years, but he did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He followed the example of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, continuing the sins that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. So the Lord was very angry with Israel, and he allowed King Hazael of Aram and his son Ben-Hadad to defeat them repeatedly. And remember, I read that like 2 days ago. There was actually like 3 Ben-Hadads. Ben-Hadad the first, Ben-Hadad the second, and Ben-Hadad the third. Verse 4, Then Jehoaz prayed for the Lord's help, and the Lord heard his prayer, for he could see how severely the king of Aram was oppressing Israel. So the Lord provided someone to rescue the Israelites from the tyranny of the Arameans. Then Israel lived in safety again as they had in former days. But they continued to sin, following the evil example of Jeroboam. They also allowed the Asherah pole in Samaria to remain standing. See, every time they leave these pagan idols around, they slip on back into sinning. That's the main thing over here. What did it say? Joash was faithful to the Lord, but he never did take down those idols. Probably the golden calves that other king put in Dan, like one in the north and one in the south. Something about those golden calves, they just could not take them down. And now we got Asherah poles. You know what those look like, right? Just giant kind of, just sticking up all over the place. So that's what's going on in verse 6. Finally, Jehoaz's army was reduced to 50 charioteers, 10 chariots, and 10,000 foot soldiers. The king of Aram had killed the others, trampling them like dust under his feet. The rest of the events in Jehoaz's reign, everything he did, and the extent of his power are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel, which I do not have a copy of, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. When Jehoaz died, he was buried in Samaria. Then his son Jehoash became the next king. So not Joash, but Jehoash. Now Jehoash rules in Israel. Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, began to rule over Israel in the 37th year of King Joash's reign in Judah. So we got Joash in Judah in the south, and Jehoash in Israel in the north. He reigned in Samaria 16 years, but he did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. The rest of the events in Jehoash's reign and everything he did, including the extent of his power and his war with King Amaziah of Judah, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jehoash died, he was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Then his son, Jeroboam II, became the next king. And in verse 14, we got Elisha's final prophecy. Elisha's been quiet up until this point. Yeah, I haven't heard from Elisha since chapter 6, when that floating axe head came up out of the water. But here we go. Here's Elisha's final prophecy. When Elisha was in his last illness, King Jehoash of Israel visited him and wept over him. My father, I see the chariots and charioteers of Israel, he cried. Elisha told him, Get a bow and some arrows. And the king did as he was told. Elisha told him, "Put your hand on the bow." And Elisha laid his own hands on the king's hands. Then he commanded, "Open that eastern window." And he opened it. Then he said, "Shoot." So he shot an arrow. Elisha proclaimed, "This is the Lord's arrow, an arrow of victory over Aram, for you will completely conquer the Arameans at Aphek." Then he said, "Now pick up the other arrows and strike them against the ground." So the king picked them up and struck the ground 3 times. But the man of God was angry with him. "You should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times," he exclaimed. "Then you would have beaten Aram until it was entirely destroyed. Now you will be victorious only 3 times." Then Elisha died and was buried. Groups of Moabite raiders used to invade the land each spring. Once, when some Israelites were burying a man, they spied a band of these raiders. So they hastily threw the corpse into the tomb of Elisha and fled. But as soon as the body touched Elisha's bones, the dead man revived and jumped to his feet. Verse 22, King Hazael of Aram had oppressed Israel during the entire reign of King Jehoahaz. But the Lord was gracious and merciful to the people of Israel, and they were not totally destroyed. He pitied them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And to this day, he still has not completely destroyed them or banished them from his presence. King Hazael of Aram died, and his son Ben-Hadad became the next king. Then Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, recaptured from Ben-Hadad, son of Hazael, the towns that had been taken from Jehoash's father. Jehoahaz. Jehoash defeated Ben-Hadad on 3 occasions, and he recovered the Israelite towns. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the final chapter for today, which is chapter 14. We're moving right along, aren't we? This is talking about Amaziah. Amaziah rules in Judah. So we're back down in the south again. Amaziah, son of Joash, began to rule over Judah in the 2nd year of the reign of King Jehoash of Israel. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother was Jehoaddin from Jerusalem. Amaziah did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, but not like his ancestor David. Instead, he followed the example of his father Joash. Amaziah did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. When Amaziah was well established as king, he executed the officials who had assassinated his father. However, he did not kill the children of the assassins, for he obeyed the command of the Lord as written by Moses in the book of law. Parents must not be put to death for the sins of their children, nor children for the sins of their parents. Those deserving to die must be put to death for their own crimes. In verse 7, Amaziah also killed 10,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He also conquered Selah and changed its name to Joktheel, as it is called to this day. One day, Amaziah sent messengers with this challenge to Israel's king Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz and grandson of Jehu. "Come and meet me in battle." But King Jehoash of Israel replied to King Amaziah of Judah with this story. "Out in the Lebanon mountains, a thistle sent a message to a mighty cedar tree. 'Give your daughter in marriage to my son.' But just then a wild animal of Lebanon came by and stepped on the thistle, crushing it. You have indeed defeated Edom, and you're very proud of it, but be content with your victory and stay at home. Why stir up trouble that will only bring disaster on you and the people of Judah?" But Amaziah refused to listen. So King Jehoash of Israel mobilized his army against King Amaziah of Judah. The 2 armies drew up their battle lines at Beth Shemesh in Judah. Judah was routed by the army of Israel, and his army scattered and fled for home. King Jehoash of Israel captured Judah's king, Amaziah, son of Joash and grandson of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh. Then he marched to Jerusalem, where he demolished 600 feet of Jerusalem's wall, from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate. He carried off all the gold and silver and all the articles from the temple of the Lord. He also seized the treasures from the royal palace along with hostages and then returned to Samaria. The rest of these events in Joash's reign and everything he did, including the extent of his power and his war with King Amaziah of Judah, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jehoash died, he was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel, and his son Jeroboam II became the next king. King Amaziah of Judah lived for 15 years after the death of King Jehoash of Israel. The rest of the events in Amaziah's reign are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. There was a conspiracy against Amaziah's life in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But his enemies sent assassins after him, and they killed him there. They brought his body back to Jerusalem on a horse, and he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. All the people of Judah had crowned Amaziah's 16-year-old son, Uzziah, as king in place of his father Amaziah. After his father's death, Uzziah rebuilt the town of Elath and restored it to Judah. And rounding this reading out, we got Jeroboam II rules in Israel. This is verses 23 on down to 29, and we're done for today. Jeroboam II, the son of Jehoash, began to rule over Israel, up in the north, in the 15th year of King Amaziah's reign in Judah. Jeroboam reigned in Samaria 41 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Jeroboam II recovered the territories of Israel between Lebo Hamath and the Dead Sea, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had promised through Jonah, son of Amittai, the prophet from Gath Hepher. For the Lord saw the bitter suffering of everyone in Israel, and that there was no one in Israel, slave or free, to help them. And because the Lord had not said he would blot out the name of Israel completely, he used Jeroboam II, the son of Jehoash, to save them. The rest of the events in the reign of Jeroboam II and everything he did, including the extent of his power, his wars, and how he recovered for Israel both Damascus and Hamath, which had belonged to Judah, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jeroboam II died, he was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Then his son, Zechariah, became the next king. Ladies and gentlemen of the Bible reading party, we are now completed with today's reading. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any insights? Any particular interpretations? Let me know now or forever hold your peace, or at least till tomorrow. Till tomorrow morning. That's a lot of J's. That's all I can say. Jeroboam, Joash, Jehoiada. Man, that's a lot of J's. That's a lot of J's. I think some of those people just name their kids after the other person's kid just to be, just to be difficult. I don't know. Maybe not. Let's see. I don't think there's too much more than I can read about these people. But since I'm pretty short on time today, because it's only 45 minutes, I'm going to see if I can learn a little bit more about these kings. Let's see, we got Jabok, Jabesh, Jachin, Jackal, Jacob, Jael, James, Japheth, Jasher, I was listening to a YouTube thing last night. The book of Jasher is something that's not in the Bible anymore, kind of like the book of Enoch. What do you guys think about that? Has anybody read the book of Enoch or the book of Jasher? Actually, I think the book of Jasher might be in the Torah. I don't know, but I did read about that. Listen to it in my YouTube thing last night. We got Jason, we got Jasper, we got Jazer. Um, Jehoahaz. I think that's the one I'm looking for. Yes, Jehoahaz means the Lord sustains. Rejoice, Kiana Nicole says. No, enjoyed the reading. Why, thank you. Jehoahaz means the Lord sustains. And the son and successor of Jehu and the 12th king of Israel, his 17-year reign was a disaster for the nation of Israel by not renouncing the idolatry of the golden calves. See, I knew that's what it was. I knew it was those golden calves. Something about that shiny, shiny, pretty golden calf. I mean, who doesn't like a nice, shiny golden cow? I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, like, shiny gold. That has been around for what? Is it the third generation or fourth generation? I think we're at the third or fourth generation that these people just they're not knocking them down for whatever reason. I think their starstruck is just shoo shiny. By not renouncing the idolatry of the golden calves set up by Jeroboam the first at Dan and Bethel, Jehoahaz did evil in the sight of the Lord. See, what is the saying? There's a saying, sometimes your silence is an answer. Like if you don't stand for something, you're standing with it. Like if you don't speak out against it, you're part of the problem if you're not part of the solution. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. Hazael of Syria and his son Ben-Hadad severely punished Israel during Jehoahaz's reign. This drove Jehoahaz to the Lord, who heard his prayer and granted temporary deliverance from Syria. Unfortunately, after the danger passed, Jehoahaz quickly abandoned his faith. After his death, Jehoahaz was succeeded by his son Joash or Jehoash. And let's see, we've got another heading. So there's another Jehoahaz, still means the Lord sustains. This is the youngest son of Jehoram, king of Judah. The sixth king of Judah, Jehoahaz, was 42 years old at the beginning of his reign, which lasted only 1 year. Jehoahaz is usually called Ahaziah. Ahaziah. I do remember reading about Ahaziah. I don't remember reading about another Jehoahaz. Also, an inscription of the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser III refers to Ahaz, king of Judah, as Jehoahaz. This was evidently his full name, but the Bible always uses the abbreviated form of Ahaz. Look, we've got something on Jehoiada too. Jehoiada means the Lord knows. The Lord knows. Jehoiada. A priest during the reigns of Ahaziah, Athaliah, and Joash of Judah, who helped hide the young King Joash from the wrath of Queen Athaliah. By his courageous action, Jehoiada was instrumental in preserving the line of David, since Joash was a descendant of David and an ancestor of Jesus. Jehoiada married Jehoshabeth, daughter of King Jehoram. Even after Joash became king, Jehoiada was a powerful influence for good in his kingdom. Under his oversight, the temple of Baal was torn down and the influence of Baalism over the people was reduced. Under the prompting of the young king Joash, the temple of the Lord was restored to its former glory. Jehoiada lived to be 130 years old. What? When he died, he was awarded the honor of burial in the royal tombs because he had done good in Israel, both toward God and his house. That's pretty amazing because I know when I was reading through Genesis and Exodus, people lived for like hundreds and hundreds of years. Like 600, 700, 800, 900 years. And I think was it right after the flood? It started just declining. Was it right before or right after the flood? But people started living less and less, like 300 years, 200 years, 100 years. And then like right around 100 was kind of like tops. It wasn't that long. So that's the first time I remember reading about somebody living for so long. I don't think we read about Jehoiakim, but we did read about Jehoshaphat. I'm going to read about Jehoshaphat and Jehu, and then I'm going to wrap it up because we're right at the 50-minute mark now. Who is Jehoshaphat? Jehoshaphat. I've been saying it wrong. I thought it was Jehoshaphat, but it's Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat. And his name means the Lord is judge. A son of Asa, who succeeded his father as king of Judah. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 25 years in Jerusalem, from about 873 BC to about 848 BC. Jehoshaphat, I think I know where I got that from. Some crazy cartoon said something like "Jumping Jehoshaphat," and I think that's where I got that from. Now I have to unteach myself the wrong way to say it. I have to say it the right way. Jehoshaphat received an excellent heritage from his father Asa, who in the earlier years of his reign showed a reforming spirit in seeking God. Jehoshaphat's faith in God led him to delight in the ways of the Lord. He attacked pagan idolatry, and he sent teachers to the people to teach them more about God. In affairs of state, Jehoshaphat also showed a willingness to rely on the Lord. In a time of danger, he prayed for God's help. Jehoshaphat showed a high regard for justice in his dealings. He reminded the judges whom he appointed that their ultimate loyalty was to God. His attitude toward impartial justice is reflected in these words: "Behave courageously, and the Lord will be with the good." Sounds good. But in his dealings with Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat made some serious mistakes. Through the marriage of his son, Jehoram, to Ahab's daughter, Jehoshaphat allied himself with Ahab. This alliance led to even further dealings with the wicked king of Israel, which the prophet Jehu rebuked. Jehoshaphat and his father Asa are bright lights against the dark paganism that existed during their time. Both father and son had certain weaknesses, but their faith in the Lord brought good to themselves as well as God's people during their reigns. And now I'm going to do this last reading on Jehu, because Jehu has been in and out of these readings. Let's see, Jehu. Well, I'm saying his name is wrong too. It's Jehu. 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 His name means the Lord is he. The Lord is he. Jehu. The 11th king of Israel. Jehu was anointed by Elisha, the prophet, as king. He later overthrew Joram, or Jehoram, King Ahab's son and successor, and reigned for 28 years. His corrupt leadership weakened the nation. He is known for his violence against all members of the house of Ahab, as he established his rule throughout the nation. At Jehu's command, Jezebel, the notorious wife of Ahab, was thrown out of the window of the palace to her death, as prophesied by Elijah. Ahab's murder of Naboth and the subversion of the religion of Israel had brought terrible vengeance, but more blood was to be shed by Jehu. Next to feel the new king's wrath were the 70 sons of Ahab who lived in Samaria. Jehu ordered them killed by the elders of Samaria. Jehu's zeal extended even further, commanding the death of Ahab's advisors and close acquaintances. This excessive violence led the prophet Hosea to denounce Jehu's bloodthirstiness. Jehu continued his slaughter against the family of Ahaziah, king of Judah. Then he made an alliance with Jehonadab, the chief of the Rechabites, to destroy the followers of Baal. Jehu and Jehonadab plotted to conduct a massive assembly in honor of Baal. After assuring the Baal worshippers of their sincerity and gathering them into the temple of Baal, Jehu had them all killed. So complete was this destruction that Baalism was wiped out in Israel, and the temple of Baal was torn down and made into a garbage dump. I think I read this part yesterday. I do. I read it in the Bible, and I feel like I read it here in the dictionary. Although Jehu promised his zeal for the Lord, proclaimed his zeal for the Lord, he failed to follow the Lord's will completely. He did not completely eliminate worship of the golden calves at Dan and Bethel, and his disobedience led to the conquest of many parts of Israel by the Syrians. And we're still under an hour, and in either case, that wraps it up. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me today. Make sure you get a chance, if you get a chance, check out Boulevard 40. You can put in that hashtag Boulevard 40, and they will bring you right to the channel there on YouTube, where I'm still banned from reading the Bible. I don't know why. I'm gonna keep hollering about it until they bring me back. Anyway, a quick prayer on the way out the door, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the many blessings that we have, that we receive, seen and unseen. Thank you for your loving kindness. Thank you for your patience. Lord, I pray that everyone listening right now and all the people listening on the replay later on, I pray that everyone is blessed with their cups overflowing with whatever it is that they need, and that their needs are met. I also pray that everyone listening is encouraged and motivated to read the Bible so they can come to their own understanding, build their faith, build their strength and trust in you, and live a prosperous and purposeful life. That is my prayer. Amen. 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 I'm about to go to bed, because I've been up all night and I'm ready to sleep. I do not miss working the midnight shift. I do not miss it at all. I don't miss it at all. I'm kind of slipping back into it, but my body loved sleeping at night and doing things in the daytime. So yeah, that's how that goes. But I'm glad that I was able to make it here with you guys. Right after this, I'm going to do the upload over at the channel. So yes, if you get a chance, check that out. Share with a friend. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great day. At Boulevard 40, which is not Boulevard 40, because this is my personal Facebook page. But YouTube has pushed me to the limits. And extenuating circumstances call for, what do they call? Extenuating measures, or however that goes. I don't know how it's called.